Calling in from the Windy City, it's time for JW Fusion with your hosts, James and Wendy B.
Welcome to this week's podcast of JW Fusion. I am your co-host, J. Scarborough Barnes, and I'm here with the awesome and magnificent...
Wow, Wendy B.
Wendy B, the one and only who has right so much. Your streak is still intact.
Okay, you got to keep it going,
You
right?
can't help it.
I tried.
You just got it.
Okay,
You
praise
just
God.
gifted. Is you gifted?
Yes.
You am is gifted.
I am is
You
are.
am is are gifted.
There you go.
Let's butcher the English
Let's
language,
just
why
mess
don't
it
we?
all up.
On
Why
worldwide
not?
radio, let's butcher
Why
it.
for not?
Okay, me and you. Listen, we got a great show this week. We have an amazing guest.
Oh my gosh.
The
I've
one
been waiting on this
Introduce
guest.
our guest,
I've
babe.
been waiting on her to come
I
into
know you have.
town
I
for
know.
months.
She flew here just for us.
What a blessing, right?
I mean, this best-selling author, public
This
speaker,
woman of God.
impact change maker.
Yes. Oh
Yes,
my
and
God.
she's so humble.
And beautiful. You see how fine
She
she
is indeed. I must concur.
Miss Rochinda Pickens.
The one and only.
Welcome so much. Oh my God, I'm so happy you're here.
I am so excited to be
got
here.
you to myself.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm sitting here looking at y'all like I am here.
You are
You're
here.
here.
I am here
Yes, you
in
are.
your city on your show.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
And I'm so glad to be here.
And we have a lot. You do so much.
Just
And
open it up, baby.
I'm
Open
so
it up.
proud of everything that you represent and that what you're trying to do for women. So let's just start at the beginning. Why not, right?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
not?
Tell us how this Kept Woman of God ministry began.
Oh my goodness. Through tragedy.
Okay.
You know, it's amazing because when I think about my life now, I'm like, wow, where did it start? And I don't want to tell my age right now. I'll tell it a little bit later. But in 2007, I was in a tragic car accident.
Okay.
And I've been married for 20 years.
Okay.
And I relied on my husband to do everything for me.
Like
you
a
know,
lot
and
of women.
right.
Yeah.
And so the thing about it is we drove through an ice storm, car flipped over the highway.
It flipped over the highway.
Over the highway.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I'm in this car, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm believing and trusting that my husband's going to take care of me, right?
Oh, wow.
So I'm not fearful of anything happening to anybody.
Okay.
So the car flipped over the highway. My husband died instantly.
Oh, wow.
At that time, I did not realize that he was gone because
Okay.
the car's flipping over. You know how you're in the movies?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And
Yeah.
you're thinking, you're like, okay, it's just going to flip and everybody's going to be okay.
Right.
So I'm this woman and I'm thinking, my husband's going to be the one that's going to rescue me, right? I didn't hear my husband. I didn't hear anybody
Oh, my gosh.
yelling out, saying,
Yeah.
are you okay?
Yeah.
So that's when reality woke up for me.
Wow.
I'm like, what's going on?
Why it's so quiet?
Yeah.
My husband had died.
Wow.
And I'm telling y'all, I was still numb, did not know what was going to happen. All I know is when they came down, the paramedics, they came down the highway and everybody's asking, are you okay? And I said, I'm okay.
No injuries.
No,
None.
Wow.
None. I had my seatbelt on.
Mm-hmm.
My husband had his seatbelt on.
Wow.
The car flipped over, and I remember I got out of my seatbelt to check him, and I could check his pulse, and it was like very, very faint. And by this time, I'm like, oh my gosh. But I'm not saying, oh my gosh. I'm like, just,
You're
frantic.
stunned.
And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
really? And so when they finally came down, they asked me, was I okay? And I said, I'm okay, but my husband is not okay. And they got us out of the car. He had died instantly.
Wow.
So I'm sitting on the highway now. I'm on I-35, 144 miles before we get to Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And that was your destination?
That was my destination.
Okay.
And the thing about it is we were going to Oklahoma because my sister had lost her son a year prior.
Oh, my gosh.
So we was going to surprise her and help her get through the grieving
Okay.
process.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I always tell people my husband had no plans to get to Oklahoma. And the reason I say that is because these shoes he would normally wear, he didn't even pack them. They were at home. I didn't find out until when I got back home. I'm thinking, wow, this man had no intentions on getting there because he left his favorite shoes.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm telling you, my life changed right there. And I know you're looking like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's deep because
I
trusted this man.
He had everything.
I was not screaming out for God, none of that, because I didn't, I'm like, this is the man that takes care of me. What's going to happen next? So anyway,
wow,
he died right then. I had to get flown all the way back to Kansas City, Missouri. I had to tell my children, their dad had passed, but I gave them that news over the telephone because I had to call home. Anyway, I'm trying to, put it all together, but to paint the picture on where this all started, it was from brokenness.
Okay.
From losing someone who you knew had been taking care of you.
Everything.
Wow.
It was my everything.
Yeah.
And
a lot of women have that. Like, oh, my husband has it. Oh, my husband will do it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the thing about it is, your husband is supposed to take care of you, but your trust is from God. God is the source.
Yeah, when you said you didn't have fear, it should have been because of God, not because of your husband.
Yeah.
But you didn't know.
Right. I didn't know.
Most of us don't know. We really don't. As human beings, if you're in a good situation, often it takes a negative circumstance or something that's impactful, something that's tragic, something that's painful. Then we turn to God. I know that's what happened for me. When I got born again, because I didn't have a choice. It was either you come to God and allow Him to change your life and correct your insanity, or you're gonna leave this life at 27 years old. It was one of those two things. So, and oftentimes we're in a good circumstance and God allows things. He doesn't do it, but a circumstance can occur. Now, God knew you had a gift in you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people didn't know. My husband and I, we had actually divorced, and people didn't realize that.
Whoa.
We had been through some stuff, and we had separated, then divorced for 1 year.
Whoa!
And God was very strategic in what He did, because during that divorce, my late husband, what he ended up doing is he had to get born again.
Okay.
He had to go and, ask for forgiveness and say, I got to get this right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I tell people now, you know what? He's good because God separated us so He can get it together, and then we came back together.
That's God's love.
Oh, wow.
That is God's love.
Isn't that a powerful story?
That is God's. It's just like Sharon was saying yesterday about God's love is the most powerful force that exists in the universe and all of creativity. His love. Now he worked the circumstances because He sees the end from the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And of course we have free will. We have a choice, but God knows the choice we're going to make, and He doesn't interfere. That's what I believe.
Right.
And in your particular case, He knew what was going to happen. So I said, I need this to happen. This needs to happen. This needs to happen. Now, the enemy uses a strategy that I call mathematics. It's arithmetic.
Okay.
He knows 1 + 1 = 2. 2 + 2 always equals 4. And so when the enemy sees 1 + 1 happening in your life, he says 2 is coming, so I got to come in here and stop that 2 from happening. You know, so there was a gift. There was a gift in you. There is a gift, a tremendous gift that you have, that you brought because of your pain and your tragedy and your loss. So many people will be reborn and given new life because of your loss of life. And Jesus said, "Can a seed bring forth a tree except it falleth to the ground and die?" So there's a death that we have to die when we have a gift in order for that thing to spring forth in the new you. Now, in your case, you are a completely different person, I would think, than who you were.
We spent the weekend together. She was like, I used to, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, I used to, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
She said it all happened from that.
Oh,
but
it
I mean,
did.
it seemed like he took steps though, because he separated you two so that he could become saved and
Right.
bring you back together.
Absolutely, because, on the outside, the world thinks you got this perfect life.
Yes.
They're like,
Lord.
okay, you're married, major at the police department, you a stay-home mom, you're
Beautiful
doing
children,
everything,
yeah.
and you
Yeah.
got the house, the home, and they just figure, okay, you got it together.
Yeah.
So when we divorced, the outside was like, well, what was going on with them?
Yeah.
And the thing is, we can go a little bit deeper. We divorced. It really was dealing with my own insecurities that I didn't know I had.
Oh, wow.
Ah.
And I didn't realize those insecurities until after the tragic accident.
Wow.
My gosh.
Because, just from, he's constantly going up the corporate ladder and I'm feeling inadequate.
I'm just, you know how we
Yes,
say just,
I'm
I'm just a
just,
stay-at-home
right.
mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was doing what he normally does. He was taking care of me. He was the provider. He was going back to school and all that good
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so when he would say the wrong thing to me, it would trigger me being like, oh, I'm inadequate or
Wow.
whatever.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter was he wasn't doing anything wrong. It was my own insecurities that I was dealing with. But I married this man to take care of me,
Yeah.
to do all these things. So God, he just kind of, he worked it.
Look at God.
He
He
worked
worked
it. And folks say, but aren't you, in a lot of pain? Yeah, I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah, I was about to say let's talk about that recent from your husband died instantly. He was your everything. He
Yes, the
was your
provider.
God
Yes.
at that point. How do you make that transition, that big transition from being the old Rochinda to the new? Because a lot of people will take that and hold on to it.
And you know what they do,
My
babe?
husband died
They
10
relive
years
it.
ago.
Yes, you're right.
And
you're right.
he did my everything, and I
Yeah.
haven't been able to pick
Yeah.
myself
Yep.
up,
Yep.
things like that. But how did that work for you?
Well, first of all, I had to go through grieving counseling. I went through the grieving counseling. I had to start admitting what was going on with me. And number one, I had to surrender. I had to surrender a lot of stuff. And I had to say, Lord, you know what? I need you to use me.
So you had it in you to know, but
Right.
because your husband was doing everything, you had kind of put it to the side.
Right. Put everything to the side because the thing is, I'm the stay-home wife. I'm just living life. I had been going to church, but I wasn't like studying. I'm just going through what traditions.
Yeah.
You go
Sure,
to church
sure.
with your
Church
husband
yeah.
and your kids are acolytes and you sit at your same seat. and,
Right.
that
We
kind
always
of
had
stuff.
a seat, like
You
that's
know.
my seats.
Yeah. People fight you about that seat.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they
and,
will.
Yeah.
And so the thing for me, after I went through the process, I was still, I had this mask on. I still was covering up. The kids would come home from school and I would have been in that bedroom crying all day long. And when they would come home, then I would act like
okay?
everything was normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything
I know
was
that one.
normal. Oh, and I covered it up
Yeah.
really, really
I mean,
well.
we're good actresses.
Because
Yeah.
my thing is, I'm like, my kids can't see me fall apart.
Yeah.
I got to be strong for these babies
Yeah.
because they're looking like, well, Mama don't know what she's doing.
Now, how old are they at the time that your husband died?
Andrea was 13. My son was getting ready to turn 16, and my oldest daughter was getting ready to turn 24.
Okay.
Wow.
And so, the car wreck was December 22nd in Christmas time, 07.
Wow.
So you had two kids' birthdays born on December the 27th. Then you had one that was November the 2nd.
Okay.
So we had to,
Big season.
oh girl, we had to bury Dad, have Christmas, New Year's, and at the same time still make these kids feel like they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But Mama is lost.
That's a
wreck.
load.
Yeah.
That's a
Can't
load
even
to
imagine
carry.
that.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of weight.
Oh,
my
yeah.
God.
And
And a
you,
lot of people don't think to do counseling.
yeah.
I'm good. Because they still have that mask. I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
What made you say I need to go to counseling, and then how did that help your children heal?
It was on a Wednesday night. I went to a Bible study, and they were coming down for prayer. And I remember feeling just really heavy. And so I went up for prayer. And the young lady who ended up being my pastor and coach, she was the one praying for me. All I remember is by the time my eyes opened up, everybody was gone. It was just me and like 3 prayer warriors praying
you
over
through.
me, praying me through. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I had to release a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And to the point where it's like, I'm laying it out there because I can't do this on my own.
Right.
And next thing I know, she signed me up. She says, okay, we're going to get you in counseling. So I started going through counseling. And I asked my children, I said, y'all want to go through counseling? You know, you try to give them the option. They're like, no, we don't want to go.
I was about to say that. No,
they were like, it's nothing wrong with us.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
So I went through the counseling, and then they finally start going, but they didn't want to go. They would sit in those counseling classes like not talking. And I said, I tell you what, until you all open up and talk, we're going to be in these counseling classes together. So we went through it. We went through it. And it's nothing but God.
Yeah. You know, that situation was preparing you right then to lead. Because you had children. You had to be the leader because you were accustomed to your husband being the lead, being the head of the house. And so you were forced into a position that enabled your abilities to begin to come forth, you know, because you had them.
Yeah.
But your protection was so strong. It's kind of like if you have a really good army, but your Air Force is so on top of it, so powerful that the guys they never get to fight because the pilots go out and bomb everything. So you guys don't really have to fight. It's not you can't fight,
right?
But you're not in that situation.
Yeah.
But if you get into a situation where now the planes they're ineffective, now the land troops, they're forced into battle now, and they become the heroes, and their courage has a chance to be demonstrated. And that's what you did. You demonstrated courage, you demonstrated leadership, you demonstrated wisdom, and of course, the love of a parent. And you demonstrated the love of God to them by being that. You know what I mean? Because you were, in fact, probably a really good example to them of God's love, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You were their example because kids, they don't know how to be spiritual typically.
Right.
You have some that are exceptional, but typically they learn about God's love through us as parents loving them. And then you're sharing with them about God's love and that you're demonstrating it. That's where parents mess up, when you're talking about God is this, God is that, and then you one hateful, mean, spiteful person to them. You're like, you're hot and cold. You're up and down at the same time, and they're confused.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's
I don't want to be like that because you look like you crazy half the time.
Oh, yeah.
So what you were doing was your leadership was emerging right on the heels of your loss, which is, man, that's like SEAL training. That's tough.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, as women, sometimes we don't know how strong we are.
We don't give ourselves credit for that.
No, my thing is, everything that I end up doing, I was doing it anyway. Because being a stay-home mom, I was the one that was paying the bills. I was the one preparing the budget, all of that. I was the one taking the kids here, doing this, all of that. Even when my late husband was going back to school, I was the one that was doing the classroom work. I was at home doing it. And, he would go in class maybe one day a week. But being broken, I didn't realize that I had all this talent inside of me because, from my childhood. And that's a whole nother segment because, I mean, you sit back saying, okay, Lord, really? You want me to do this?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, Rochinda, this is what you've always done. You're just going to keep doing it, and you're going to have to make these decisions and not question your decision.
Right.
And that was a hard one for me.
I was about to say, we're good at like, maybe I shouldn't have, or asking all our friends.
Yeah.
And then they say one thing, and you're like, well.
Yeah.
That information from the street boy get your hickeys on your head.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Every time.
Because it's usually crooked.
Oh, it is. You have to learn to trust yourself.
You do.
Oh, yeah.
And even if it's not the best decision, it was yours.
It was right.
It's not you're following every other person.
So I have a question though. Did your children, looking back, has any of your children ever come to you and say, Mom, the role that you took on, the example that you set helped me to blank?
Yes, all three of them. All
Okay.
three of them.
Talk about that.
They still talk to me and they still thank me. They're constantly saying, "Mom, you just don't know how you got us through this." And for me, I'm like, but I'm your mom. This is what I'm supposed to do.
That's what I do. Yeah.
It's like, what else am I supposed to do? And then my oldest daughter, she didn't go through the grieving process. She was almost 24.
She was 24 at the time. Okay.
And she was living in Dallas.
Okay.
So she felt like, I don't need to go through all of that. But we would constantly still have those conversations. And I remember when she finally had her breakthrough, she was getting ready to get a job promotion. And her dad was the one who would always help her make these decisions.
Sure.
Because, being a stay-home mom, they think you don't know nothing.
You don't know anything. Yeah, I do know that.
Right. And, so she's calling me and she's asking me a decision. And she just breaks down and she's crying. And she's like, my dad is the one who always would help me make these decisions. And I'm like, okay, I'm breathing and I'm like, okay, Lord, let me help her get through this because she's crying and I'm getting ready to start crying. Yeah. And I remember saying, I need you to trust your gut. How do you feel about this position? And then she's like, but I'm unsure. And I said, okay, tell me something. What would your dad have told you? So we walked it through.
Because he's done it before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we walked it through it, and I said, there you go. And so later she thanked me. She said, thank you. And she said, thank you, Mom. She says, I realized Dad is still with me.
Yeah.
So,
because he put that in her.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what to say.
That's such wisdom.
It back on you.
Because if you didn't need to reinvent the wheel, because she had gone through that process several times before. And the thing about decision making is a concept that regardless of what the decision may be, you have the upside, the downside, the benefits, the pros, the cons. And he probably laid out these things and she picked them up subconsciously.
Yeah.
And it became a part of her, And so what you did was your questions triggered that memory and stirred that decision-making ability that her dad imparted to her in previous sessions. So that is so much more powerful than you trying to displace what he did.
Had she not gone through her counseling?
Right.
They should have been like, I know some stuff. I mean, what?
No, don't worry about that. This how you do it.
He's gone.
Oh, yeah.
And then your grief comes out because you haven't dealt with it, but you had been dealing with it.
That's awesome, man. That's powerful. Oh my gosh.
And I always would tell the children, I would say, look, your dad is still here. The memories that he has taught you, the things he have told you to do, let's go back and remember. I never would say, oh, no, your dad's gone, so we're going to figure this out. It's like, what would he have told you to do? Oh, yeah. Now, my son, it was a little harder because, they say a woman can't raise a boy, right?
Yeah.
And I would tell him certain things, and he would listen, but I could tell he needed a male. He needed a male right there. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, you know what, we got the police department on our side, but my son is like, but they're not my dad. They're not my dad. So that was kind of it was harder for him, and I didn't even realize that I didn't have the strength for him until he starts getting a little bit older. And then in this book is when I realized he went through some stuff and I didn't even know about it.
Wow.
Let's get on these, since you just went on, did the segue for us.
Well, I mean,
let's talk about the book.
Well, let's hold up the book.
Because she is a best-selling.
A best-selling author?
National best-selling author.
National best-selling author.
This is your first book.
Yeah, that's...
Now, so people would see and be like, what do you mean from being kept to being kept? And you have a beautiful way of explaining what that is. And I love the concept. So let's talk about being kept versus being kept.
Okay. So from being kept to being kept is from being kept by the world and stuff to being kept by God. And the thing is, I had been kept by the world for years, not even understanding it. And I tell a lot of people, you know what? You cannot be kept by God until you know what you have been kept by early on so you can be able to compare what it is.
Nice. Wow.
And when that title came to me, I was wondering,
the picture, do you see the picture?
Yeah.
The picture explains everything.
It does.
And I love that.
And that was the surrender. The surrender part?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, I was messed up, but you wouldn't have known it. And we're talking about it goes all the way back from childhood, from being caught up in this, thinking how the world shaped you.
Yeah.
And then you realize, you know what? God created you to be beautiful, to stand in your boldness, but you got to really understand who you are. And I didn't know who that was. And so that triggered all into when I got married, how I got married, allowing my husband to take care of me because I was looking for that.
Yeah, that's what we're taught.
Yeah. I was seeking it out. And it's like,
he got a good job, girl, you're good. Okay, well, how does he treat you? Like, how does he make you feel?
Yeah,
absolutely.
But we get wrapped up in what he does, his status, how he looks. Oh, you got a cute one.
Right. Or whatever you didn't get as a child. It's like, okay, my mom raised us by herself, 7 children.
Wow.
I was next to the youngest. My father, she was still married to my dad, but they weren't in the same household. So I'm this young kid watching my father chase women.
Okay.
I'm watching him take care of women, and I'm like, wait a minute. When I grow up, I'm going to have a man to take care of me.
Take care of me, yeah.
My dad did it.
Yeah.
This woman got shiny things.
Yeah.
And, so I want that. And I don't want to be a single mom with all the kids. So my mind was already being shaped. So then when I finally got married, I was like, okay, I'm going to marry a man that can take care of me. A man that don't have children all over the place. A man that can buy me all these things. And then the love and all the other stuff will come afterwards.
Yeah, and that's
That's
backwards.
backwards.
Yeah, that's
So
very
at
backwards.
what age would you say, Rochinda, that mindset solidified for you where you said, okay, this is who I am and this is going to be my path? How were you, like 10, 12, 16?
When I finally decided, okay, I'm going after being kept by the world.
Sure. Yeah.
I would say I had my first child when I was 19 years old.
Okay.
So I would say by 19
years
20,
old.
when my brain is like, okay, I can use my looks
Yeah.
to get what I want.
That's what we're taught, though. And then people don't understand that we're taught, like, you're a pretty girl. Why are you single? What does that have? What?
Well, that's an archaic mindset. That comes from an era where when women weren't treated as equals. They were treated more as property, as arm candy,
So
as
your attractiveness.
it's you an asset to my ego.
Yeah.
I'm the star of the show.
But that's still
You're not even
relevant
in the
now.
show. You're in the show when I bring you out. When we go
Yeah.
out, you're on my arm.
You're the
Other than that,
arm candy.
that's what you're my arm candy. So
Yeah.
other than that, that's where the term barefoot and pregnant came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You keep you stay in your place, and that's how they justify denying women the right to vote, denying them equal pay, which they still deny women equal pay.
Yeah.
They treat women as it's a world system. It's a demonic system that treats women as objects,
Yeah.
objectifying them, not just sexually,
Right.
economically, socially.
But a lot of times we help that.
We
perpetuate
perpetuate it
that.
because it's in our minds.
Yeah.
That this is how it's supposed to be, and we accept it. And I know there were things I grew up with that, that's how it is. Oh, okay, I'm inferior. I'm less than.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough.
Oh,
And that was the problem.
please.
Yeah.
We could talk another hour
Yeah.
for that one.
Yeah.
Alone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Man.
So we can be kept by our own strongholds. We can be held down, not able to move forward because of what we're believing in ourselves. And until we really understand who we are and who we stand for, we stay just kind of locked down.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I was messed up. I thought I was okay. I thought everything was normal.
You thought you was good.
Oh, I did. I'm
Yeah,
like,
not just okay, but you was good.
I'm
Well, you know what?
Good.
You were measuring yourself by a ruler you created.
Yeah.
You weren't measuring yourself by God's ruler.
Right.
When we measure ourselves by God's ruler, that's
Man.
when the term coming up short.
Yeah.
You think you're 8 inches tall,
Like, no, I'm not. It's not that
and you find
serious.
out you like an inch and a
like-
half.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you use God's ruler, it all changes. It's all perspective.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful that you had the mind and the heart to say, look, I'm not. This is not who I'm going to be when that thing happens, because it's hard to change.
Oh, yeah.
Change is very uncomfortable.
Oh, my God.
It's painful. It is painful.
We're coming up on commercial, babe. But
Yeah,
we got to unpack this just a little bit more.
We're going to talk about the change, the process of change.
That's not something you just wake up like I'm going to do this.
Yeah, that can help.
That takes work.
It does. It does. It really does. So this story is so powerful. Anytime I hear about somebody that changed their life, it's amazing. But we'll be right back. And we're back with best-selling author Rochinda Pickens.
My friend, my sister.
Okay. This is Wendy.
I love Rochinda. Oh my God.
We know.
I love the book. Yeah.
She is. I'm grateful for her flying flying, getting on a plane, coming here to be on JW Fusion.
It's an honor. Don't make me cry because I'll start crying.
Don't start crying.
I will.
You
It's
can
a
cry.
blessing.
You can cry later, babe.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I don't need stuff,
You
know.
gonna cry too?
Oh,
we'll be crying together. Yeah.
But anyway,
it's okay.
Yeah.
We want you to talk about.
Okay, but 2 seconds.
Okay.
Because we got to talk about how we met. Because you like to always put my gang out there. You always like to talk about my gang.
The Sassy Jones gang?
Bam.
Yes.
The Sassy Jones gang.
We in the gang.
Hey, y'all, I got much respect. The Sassy Jones.
What's nice that we were talking about this at breakfast that we had never met. We knew each other from being in that private Facebook group, and we just connected.
Yes.
And we've talked and we've texted and messengered, and she said, well, when I got time to come. And I'm like, oh, you're going to come here? What? And we made a whole weekend around the fact that you were going to be here. So, how many? It was 8 of us at one time?
Yes.
At the most?
Yes.
And we just, there was a group of women who just loved on each other, who lifted each other. Rochinda threw out a little advice when she saw it was needed, and she said it with such love. So I just wanted to throw that and say, I got the gang with me, babe.
Yeah. You know what? I want to say this, that I have such respect for your group, because oftentimes women of certain cultures don't support and celebrate one another.
Right.
And
genuinely.
Sincerely support one another, sincerely celebrate. And I've observed that to a person, everyone I've met thus far, everyone is so very supportive and strongly behind the next person.
When Rochinda was trying to get her book to bestseller, I went live on my page like, wait a minute, y'all buy this book. It's a powerful book. I think it's a necessary read.
Yeah.
For not just women though.
Yeah.
For men to get that perspective as well. Because you know, we raise our daughters one way, which is how we're looking for the nice looking man with a good job.
Right.
But then we raise our boys a certain way as well.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this book. We got so much to talk about. Let's talk about this book and what is your goal and what do you want the reader to get from it?
My goal is to be able to put that book in millions.
Yes.
I wanted to be able to just, give it away.
Yeah.
Give it away, because my thing is the story, it helps you through healing.
Yeah.
And it makes you think and take yourself back, because in this book,
take yourself back. That's huge.
Oh, it's crucial, because that book started off with a 9-year-old. And see, I'm 54 years old.
She told it.
Yeah, I told it.
Girl, you fine.
So
Whatever.
wait a minute, back up. You said it started with a 9-year-old. Who was that 9-year-old?
The 9-year-old was myself. So
from a 9-year-old, you talk about the process of creating one Rochinda, and then you reach a point in life where you are forced to shift and recreate yourself.
Right.
So talk about that particular, that point of metamorphosis or change or shift from the life you were living, the current, present, past life you had.
Okay.
So you probably imbued a present, future life for yourself that you knew you needed for yourself and your children, and you desired it.
Right.
So how did you go about accomplishing that? Did you get counseling? We know you got counseling, but exactly give us some of the steps that you used that you could share with someone else because there's a lot of people that are hurting, that go through a lot of tragedy.
Yeah.
Right.
And your story, your steps, we often hear about what happened and why it happened, but we don't get the steps of what to do.
Of how to do it.
So could you share some of that?
Yeah, and the thing is, I had no intention of writing a book at all. All I knew was I needed to share with the ladies, how to live life after death. So I would start these Bible studies. We would meet at a boutique, and it's like 6 or 7 women, and we would gather and we would talk about it. And I would always talk about life after death. And death does not mean someone actually died. It could be a relationship. It could be friends. It could be money. It could be men. It could be drugs. It could be whatever. And I wanted women to realize that I'm just like them, and I chose to live. So we created a vision board. I put on my vision board that I was going to host a conference, right?
Yeah.
Had no idea.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
I was like,
I love it.
I'm like, I'm going to host a conference, right? We got 6 women here, and, you cannot talk to women about moving forward without them seeing you move forward.
Yes.
Good.
So
That's good.
I create this vision board. I'm going to have a conference, and I'm showing what I want to do. And I put a date on it.
You have to put a date on it.
Put a date on it.
Yeah.
The date was for the next year. And I already knew what I had been through. I already knew what I wanted the women to understand. And what I wanted the women to understand is that they're being kept by God. I wanted them to have a clear, precise vision of what being kept by God was.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to think that it meant clothes, it meant jewelry, it was fame, it was money. I wanted them to really, really understand where my source came from.
Okay.
So I got the wheels turning.
Put that on the vision board.
Here we are at a conference.
Yeah.
I'm still not thinking that it's huge.
Yeah.
I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do, right? I'm supposed to reach women. 149 women showed up. And I'm being the host. I'm not thinking too much about it. I'm talking to the audience, and I'm sharing my story.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm just telling them what I went through. Telling them what I went through. Next thing I know, probably a few months later, I'm talking to a coach, and we're talking, and she's like, "Oh, you need to write a book." And I'm like,
wait a
I
minute.
don't want to write no book.
Yeah.
I mean, write a book. She's like, you done already shared your story.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
paper.
yeah. She said, did you record it? And I'm like, yeah. She said, there's your book.
You was like,
And I was like, what?
no, took away all your little excuses.
So,
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome.
I mean, it was amazing because I'm like, okay. And so what I did is I listened to my recording, put pen to paper. I just filled in everything else.
Yeah.
Because when I shared my story to the audience, I started from this 9-year-old all the way up. And at that time, I was I 50? No, I don't even think I had gotten married yet.
Okay.
So every year I was adding something new. I was adding something
growing.
new to it. I was growing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Lord. But the steps was I had to get coaching. I had to really understand who Rochinda was. And I had to own it. And I had to operate in the truth. Because you can't be standing up in front of people not being truthful.
Yeah. So how did you find Rochinda? Most people are like, well, I don't know what to do.
How did I
know
find
what I do
Rochinda?
day to day. So how am I supposed to unpack and figure out what's deeper?
Well, I surrendered all the old stuff. Everything that I had been doing.
What does that mean, though? So people hear surrender, they're like, what is she talking about? Is she going to clear out the house? She go, what does that mean when you say surrender? Everything.
I had to turn it over, like the bad habits, the gravitating to somebody's going to take care of me. Somebody's going to give me this.
That's not easy.
No,
Yeah.
because at that time you got to trust God.
Yeah.
If I'm surrendering and saying, Lord, use me, I'm going to trust you to provide for me, then that means all of the stuff that you normally figure, well, let me call such and such and they can figure it out.
Yeah.
Let me see if they can figure it out. I'm like, Lord, you know what? I need help. Constantly praying, studying. And I surrounded myself with like-minded people.
Okay.
I surrounded myself
That's important.
praying, some praying sisters,
Yeah.
not people praying on you.
Genuine prayer,
Yes.
praying people. Yeah.
And I would constantly be talking. But what happened is people was pushing you. They're like, I believe in you. You can do this.
Yeah.
And my pastor, which ended up being my mentor, she gave me my first platform. I don't know if I had shared with you about the Bible study, and she told me to do Bible study, and I thought she was going to be there to teach it, right?
Yeah.
It was a setup, is what it was.
And she knew
Yeah, I
that.
come help you. Pass
She
out
knew
the
that.
pamphlets.
Yeah.
And,
She was gone. So I had to do Bible study with all the congregation. And I'm thinking, Lord, I don't know nothing about this.
yeah.
But she set me up where that was my first platform.
Look at that.
And every time it was like, okay, Rochinda, just do you. Don't do anybody else. I can't do Wendy.
Right.
You know, I can't do Mr. Barnes. Do Rochinda. So I just would stand up, and when I was talking, I would tell the women, this is who I am. You know, if I mess up a word, then all you all with the dictionary scholars to help me out.
Right.
You know
Help a
what?
sister out.
Let me tell you
that.
what. I'm listening to you, and you have laid out perfectly the path to freedom from bondage. You let go of the old.
Right.
You can't grab the new if you're holding on to a butter knife and you need to cut a piece of meat. You can't cut meat with a butter knife. You need a butcher knife.
Right.
But you can't grab the butcher knife if you're still holding the butter knife.
Yep.
That's a good
So you
analogy.
drop the butter knife, you grab the butcher knife, and you start cutting away the things that were no longer necessary, the things you no longer desire to be in your life. Then you got somebody to help you cart the stuff, pack it up, package it, cellophane it up, whatever it was that was needed. You didn't get into your ego or pride and feeling like, I don't need no help. I don't want nobody to know
Because she
my
has
business.
surrendered everything.
You had surrendered,
Yeah.
and the thing that you surrendered the most, the thing that you let go of first was your ego.
Yeah.
Because the purpose of the ego is to protect us from embarrassment, from being shamed, from being harmed.
But that's the wrong being kept.
That's the wrong. You're keeping yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
You're protecting yourself.
Yeah.
God
you
is
don't
our
need
protector.
ego if you're holding on to the Lord, knowing that He's going to lead you and guide
Exactly.
you.
So that's the steps that you took are so. I mean, it's simple, but it ain't easy.
Yeah, because I talk about walking in freedom.
Yeah.
And I always say there's 3 steps to walking in freedom. First of all, you have to be authentic. Then you have to be in alignment with God, and you have to take inspired action steps.
Yes.
And it's like you got to do those things constantly, over and over and over. And like you said, get out of your ego, because some of us, when we get up before anybody are speaking, you start thinking, well, what if I'm not good enough and all this? God said, you are good enough. You speak on what I put in you.
Yeah.
So
You're created
all
by
I can
Him,
do
so that
is
automatically makes you good enough.
right. And all I can do is talk about what a kept woman of God is, what she looks like, what she acts like. And it's not 1 minute, it's not a moment, it's a lifestyle. So
That's good.
Everyday practice.
every day.
Every day.
Is there.
That's
So
good.
if you see me next week, I'm still a kept woman of God.
Yeah.
If my crown kind of tilt,
I
I'm
was
like,
about to say, you got to talk about the. You have to talk.
Oh my gosh.
She gets on
I
live
know,
sometimes.
I know.
She's like
Babe,
you feel it or something.
I know.
Like, okay, I feel some of you all
Babe,
don't have your crown. And
listen,
Diva got the
I know,
crown
I
on her
know.
head.
Don't-
She got a big.
Let me
Talk
tell you
about
what.
the crown.
She showed me one of your. She said she
had to
put the
show 'em.
tiaras on.
She had it. She got a big one.
big old crown.
She got the queen's crown on her head. And talk about that, because that's so powerful.
Well, you-
And that's so simple for you to check yourself.
Yeah. And the thing is, we walk around saying we're kept women of God, right? And we love the Lord, and we're doing all this. And we walk in a room and we're mean and we're hateful and we're
Jealous.
backstabbing
Yeah.
and we're jealous and, all of that stuff. And it's like, you know what? Check your crown. Check your crown. Even though if it's not sitting up there, if we can't see it visible, we can't really see it, you're kept by God, and God is royalty. And so I started doing that because I remember back in the day, the old Rochinda, I was being kept by stuff where I would, you thought, okay, she's good inside and outside.
Yeah.
And my message is you got to be good on the inside and it has to match up with your outside. So check your crown.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Don't let it fall off
Yeah.
or, go back and when you got to say,
she got the whole group of us saying the crown almost slipped, but we caught it.
Yeah.
we caught
That's
it.
such a beautiful and simple.
It's great symbolism.
I love it.
It's awesome. It's brilliant, actually, because it's a way of saying,
Yeah, check
I mean,
yourself.
subconsciously.
Yeah.
You could be anywhere at any given moment,
Yeah.
and you check that invisible crown.
Yeah.
If you don't have a physical one on, you can check invisibly. Well, what I just said
Or thought.
or thought.
Yeah.
That's something I'm doing now. I mean, I'm observing my thoughts.
Yeah.
Because those little thoughts, they sneak in, and if you don't address them, they take hold and become a part of you. And if you allow them to remain, feelings come with those thoughts.
Yeah.
And thoughts and
it
feelings,
it continues to grow.
until it becomes behavior. And when you got thoughts, feelings, behavior, or action, you got a personality trait.
Oh, yeah.
And that thing, you allow it to grow, it becomes dominant. That's how we become insecure. We become jealous. We become mean. We become manipulators,
Yeah.
And taking advantage of people, taking things that's not yours.
Yeah.
But when you checking your crown, it's the same thing as checking that thought at the door.
Yeah, I love
And what
that.
I do is,
Accountability.
you
For
check
yourself.
that thought. You check it and say, hey, what I do now, if I see a thought, if I hear a thought, if I see an image, I say, I prune that thought. What does that mean, prune? You prune a bush.
Yeah.
You're cutting away something that's harming the entire plant. You
Right.
cut it off.
Yeah.
I cut it, I prune it, I unravel it. And literally I watch it unravel, disintegrate.
And that's important to have that
Yeah,
visualization.
because when I
It makes
do
it more
that,
real.
the thing lifts. That thought is gone. And as we do that, as we check our crown and we do that, it becomes a habit.
Oh, yeah.
Just as the other stuff was a habit.
I love that.
You know?
And you know what's funny about this weekend? I was, sitting back and I'm watching us, and we're all just nice and confident and happy. A lot of times you are in a group of people and you feel like, okay, maybe I need to diminish myself because somebody gonna get mad.
Yeah.
Oh, she thinks she's all that. I not one time thought that.
Yeah.
I was just like, I can shine and I can celebrate Rochinda's shine and I can celebrate Sharon because she was fine yesterday.
Oh, my
she came,
gosh.
she showed up. And I love that we could just love on each other and it doesn't take away from who we are.
Right.
We all kept our crowns on straight.
We did.
It
We
was
did.
just, it was a
Even when
beautiful.
we was hot, we
Yeah.
Ooh, child.
Somebody was telling us to put that seatbelt on. Click.
I don't know
But
who
see,
she's talking
but the thing is, the Bible says where the Spirit of Christ is, there's liberty.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you guys had a free synergy or cohesive liberty
Yeah.
amongst you. There was a spirit
It was
of
beautiful.
unity.
And I just
love.
I have to shout out Sharice Jones because she is the
Yes.
reason for the Sassy Jones group and for our gang, as you call it. And just, she's very strategic and intentional about the vibe of the group.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
And that's
Do you
huge.
know-
So I just have to thank her.
I mean-
I would have
Oh,
never
yeah.
met you. And a
No.
lot of ladies.
but babe, think about the people that you guys interact with, the difference you made in their lives that you probably don't even know.
yeah.
Yeah.
The women that you have encouraged when they
That we
felt
haven't met yet.
you haven't
Oh, yeah.
even met
Yeah.
them. You haven't even seen
We
them.
all feel like we're sisters, and most of us haven't. I know I haven't met most of
And
them.
I just love the way you support one another. And I think it should be something that as you work and you share that, it becomes
Yeah.
a part of your personality that where you go,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna
it does.
you
Yeah.
release that. You release that. I know you have that. I can sense
Yeah.
that about you.
Yeah.
That you bring a unity wherever you go. And if
She does.
haterations
vibe.
show up,
Yeah.
you got something to do with that.
Yeah.
Right.
That-
And God He has given you He have given you strict orders on how to handle it.
Yeah.
Because the old Rochinda would have handled some things a little bit different.
Yeah.
The new Rochinda guy said, no, you're going to operate out of love.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're going to say this. You're going to do this the right way. And that other person that is bringing negativity, I need you to intercede and help this sister out who might not know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it's amazing because I'm like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do now?
Yeah.
And sometimes he said, I need you to just sit quiet. I need you to sit
Okay.
quiet
Yeah.
and listen.
Yeah.
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 Powerful.
That's powerful.
It's a blessing just sitting here looking at you. I mean, she's gorgeous, but you
girl.
already know that.
I know.
Y'all go ahead now, go on. I saw Rochinda. I'm like, she is prettier in person than on the computer screen.
And the funny thing is, when people see me now around me, they say, you were the same. You were just like you are now, like you were back then. I said, but y'all don't get it. The inside is what's good.
Yeah.
I said, see, and that's why I know women cover up stuff.
Yeah.
And when you've been there, you can recognize
Right.
it. You can see it, and
Yeah.
you're like, I ain't going to call you out. I'm going to keep praying for you. Because
Yeah.
when they really feel that you've been through what they've been through, then they will talk more. They will say, I'm having a problem with this.
And then
Or,
you can
you're right.
pour into them.
Right, you
And they're
don't
ready
tear
to
them
receive
down.
it. Yeah.
Right, you're like, girl, I told you, no, let me pray for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna help you out.
Yeah.
Powerful.
You know what? That goes right back to the message we heard today
Yeah. In church.
about offering
Praise.
like 10 praises for
each
one
negative-
correction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because if you tell me what I'm doing well, that I'm doing something that you admire, that I'm doing something that you deem of value, I'm more open because you've demonstrated that you appreciate who I am. Not what I do, but who I am and the good that I've done and that you admire that. So I'm open to receive correction from you. If all I ever hear from you, hey, you didn't do this.
You shoulda.
You didn't do that.
You're not
Why
even
didn't you
listening
do
to
this?
them.
Yeah.
You don't
tune
want to
them
hear
out.
it.
Yeah.
So you just hating. You just
Yeah.
hating.
Yeah.
And you can know it's true.
Right.
You know,
But you can't receive it because it's
look,
so much
you know you
negativity you're
late
throwing
all
toward-
the time. You know you late. You know you late. You
Yeah.
know that you have do everything you do. You know it.
Yeah.
You know it better than anybody.
Right.
Oh yeah,
But you don't want to hear it from a person that's not coming from a place of love.
Of love.
right.
And so
We're back
what
to
you're
love.
saying
Yeah.
about embracing that a person or group even,
Yep.
because I used to deal with guys in drug rehab centers. I used to meet them on Monday nights. All of them, they were mandated there by the courts. And one thing I did not do was go in there preaching about, y'all need to do this or you need to do that or
And
you ought
hear
to do
that
this.
too.
and you
You've
ought-
heard that.
What I point out is that this is what's available to you. This is what God's love provides for you. This is what you can have if you want it. It's up to you. God doesn't diminish or look upon or diminish you as a human being because you're in here.
Yeah.
It has who
He
you.
still loves you.
He still loves you. He didn't love what you did,
Right.
but he loves you
loves
as a
you.
person.
Yeah.
And those guys, they look forward to me coming there on Monday nights.
Yeah,
you know,
'cause you're pouring into them.
Yeah, and they
Oh, yeah.
received it.
Yeah.
Now, if I'd come in there, trying to beat them over the head, I'd have left there with one leg, one
I
arm,
was about to say, they're going to beat you up. That's all that is.
and my ear hanging off,
Yeah.
So that love is key.
It's huge.
It
And
is.
So you went bigger, and how many years have you had this Kept One of God conference?
We will be in our 5th year
Next
year, big 5-year. And the thing is, that's when we launched. Actually had the conferences, but probably 2 years prior to that, I was doing like Bible studies and we might go and have lunch and, different small things. And I've always called it Kept Woman of God because
Wow.
I knew that I was a kept woman of God and I was able to represent that.
Yeah.
And you wanted people to be able to look at you and say, you know what, she looked just like me. She
Yeah.
does the things that I do.
Yeah.
She laughs and she's normal.
Yeah.
You're
you know.
real. You're
You're
real
not standing up there all
Yeah.
stoic saying the Bible
I don't even know
says
how to
and
do
you-
that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
with a big hat.
Yeah.
if I had to bring out a big hat, we had a tea party. I'm like,
Yeah.
pull out a hat.
Yeah.
And so every day I still pinch myself
Yeah.
because this is not the life that I would have chose for myself.
Mm-hmm.
The life that Rochinda chose for herself was a stay-home mom. I did
Raise
not
these
want to go
kids.
to work. I
Yeah.
wanted to cook and clean and have this big house with a white picket fence.
Yeah.
No, I didn't want to go out and be praying for women. I was not trying to encourage women. I was the one put me behind the scene.
Right.
Let me
We
create
talked about
something
that.
and not tell nobody what I did.
You didn't want to
Yeah.
get dirty.
Yeah, I didn't want to do none of that.
You want to
He
get in the
said dirty.
trenches.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, you know, when you are pouring into women, you better be right.
Yeah.
You better be right when you're pouring into them,
Yeah,
because when
every
they
time.
bring some heavy stuff on you, it's like the only person that can hold you up is God.
Yeah.
Your friends can't help you out. You're like, Lord, I need you to help me.
Well, it's powerful that you understand the dynamic the dynamic of being used by God. That it's so vital that you are transparent, that you don't color or change the flavor of what God is saying to a person. You know how a person can, God may give them a word to share with somebody to encourage them. And they'll say, you know, God says he loves you and that he has not forgotten about you and that he's going to bring you out of this. But see, what you shouldn't have done, you shouldn't have did that in the first place. See, that was that really wasn't smart, the Lord said. And he said that you do it again, he gonna take a strap to you, because that just didn't make no sense. That's just backwards. Now, you didn't change the flavor, the spirit, and everything. You just negated what you said.
Nothing was received by that.
So what you're saying is you have to be right. You have to be transparent. You have to be sincere. And you got to really care about a person to pull them out of what they're in. What's really interesting, what's amazing, no matter how far down you have to go to pull somebody out, everybody comes out clean.
Yes.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Rochinda, real quick, I don't want this to end without people knowing where to tap into your message, your ministry. Where would someone find you?
They can go to our website, and it's www.keptwomanofgod.com, or Facebook, Kept Woman of God, Twitter,
Everything.
Kept Woman 0711.
Okay.
You know, and they can also follow me, Rochinda Pickens. You can Google me. Look,
I
you can
love
Google
it.
Kept Woman of God, and you're going to pull it up.
Okay.
Because it's a lifestyle, and you know, it's just over and over and over and over. And my thing is, I know how to do Rochinda very well. I don't know how to do anybody else.
You don't want to.
No,
I
I'm
love
like,
it. I love
this
it.
is all I know how to do.
Rochinda, so stay in that. This is, man, so
This
much
is
to talk
this.
about.
I know.
But definitely check Rochinda out. I mean, you just go live. It seems like God will give you a word. All of a sudden you're live, like, fix your crown. So I'm like, wait a minute, did I do something? Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, it was a little. You know, it's like you have a word, like somebody might need to hear something, and you just go live.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. What I just saw a book cover, Fix Your Crown.
Rochinda got it. Okay.
I just saw a book cover.
And you're going to be in the book.
Fix Your Crown.
I'd happily,
Fix
because
your
my
crown.
crown, I'd be like, Lord, let me just
Fix
pin
your
it
crown.
down, because it's
Because
a rough day.
That is a powerful concept.
It is.
It really is, because the Bible
It's so
says
simple, though.
it is
That's
simple.
the beauty of it.
It's simple, but it's not
It's
easy.
not easy.
Yeah.
But it's easy to have that picture, like, wait,
I mean, the Bible
that
says
person cut me off in my crown, so let me fix it, you know?
And we all fall short
to
to the point where you're like, I just needed somebody to remind me. And like you said, you're like, did I do something wrong? And you didn't do anything wrong.
Right,
but at the
it's,
same
you
time,
still
you're
check.
like,
But you're sensitive. You're watching. It's become a part of you, so much a part of you, that all the nonsense, the little foxes that come to destroy the vine, the little strongholds that try to get a hold of your mind and get you going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Those things
We're running out of time.
We're running out of time again.
Thank you so much for being.
Close us out,
I
baby.
just love everything about you, everything that you represent. I am honored to tears, but I'm trying not to cry that you just came in town just to spend time with us and to bless us on this show. And it is our prayer that you are going to just go higher with this message, because so many of us, and I say it intentionally us, need to hear what you're teaching and what God is using you as a vessel to do for us.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you all for having me. I love you too. You stuck with me. Y'all stuck with me.
I praise God for that.
Well, you family now, so
all day.
Well, listen, we want you to tune in next week, 6 o'clock p.m. on Artist First Radio Network. And until then, allow God's grace to continue to flow in your life as a mighty river.
Fix your crowns.
Fix your crown. God bless.